Jon Jones, widely regarded as one of the greatest fighters in mixed martial arts history, has once again found himself at the center of criticism. This time, the focus is on his apparent reluctance to share the octagon with surging heavyweight contender and interim champion Tom Aspinall. Earlier this year, Jones shocked the combat sports world by announcing his retirement from mixed martial arts. The move came abruptly, leaving fans and analysts stunned. For many, it felt premature, especially considering the high-profile opportunities that still awaited him in the heavyweight division. By stepping away, Jones effectively vacated his heavyweight championship title, a belt he had only recently captured after making the move up from light heavyweight. In the aftermath of Jones' retirement, Tom Aspinall quickly became the centerpiece of the heavyweight division. The British fighter, known for his speed, technical precision, and finishing ability, wasted no time in proving himself a worthy champion. His dominant run has positioned him as a legitimate threat to anyone in the division, with fans eagerly awaiting a unification bout between him and Jones. However, that dream clash now appears further away than ever. Aspinall is already scheduled to defend his interim heavyweight title against Cyril Gane in the Middle East next month. Gane, himself a former title challenger and one of the most athletic heavyweights in the sport, will test Aspinall's skills in what promises to be a highly anticipated matchup. Still, despite the excitement surrounding this bout, much of the MMA community can't help but wonder, why has Jon Jones avoided the unification fight that fans have been clamoring for? Critics argue that Jones' decision to retire at least temporarily was strategically convenient. By stepping away before a potential showdown with Aspinall, Jones sidestepped what many believe could have been the most difficult fight of his career. Aspinall's mix of youth, power, and agility presents a stylistic challenge unlike any opponent Jones has faced before. This perceived avoidance has not gone unnoticed by fellow fighters and legends of the sport. One veteran recently voiced sharp criticism of Jones, claiming that walking away without settling the score with Aspinall casts a shadow over his legacy. For years, Jones has been celebrated as the pound-for-pound king, a fighter who dominated the light heavyweight division with a blend of creativity, adaptability, and fight IQ. But in the eyes of some, refusing to face the toughest available opponent tarnishes that reputation. Jones, of course, has his defenders. Supporters argue that after years of grueling competition and personal battles outside the cage, the 37-year-old has earned the right to step away on his own terms. His career accomplishments, multiple title defenses, victories over Hall of Famers, and an unmatched record of dominance already cement his place in MMA history. Yet, for critics, legacy is about more than past accomplishments. It's about taking on the best challenges available, regardless of timing or risk. As the heavyweight division moves forward with Aspinall at the helm, the conversation around Jon Jones remains heated. Will he return to the octagon to settle unfinished business, or will his legacy be defined by the fight that never happened? For now, the only certainty is that Jones continues to divide opinion in the MMA world, hailed as the greatest by some, and questioned as a reluctant champion by others. Before moving on to the next news, we have a quick request for you. We're always working to improve our content and truly value your support. If you could take a moment to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon, it would mean a lot to us. That way, you'll never miss an update. Move on to another news. Former UFC middleweight champion Robert Whittaker has called for stricter officiating in mixed martial arts when it comes to eye pokes, arguing that the current system of repeated warnings is insufficient and potentially dangerous for fighters. Speaking on the issue, Whittaker explained his frustration with how eye pokes are currently handled inside the octagon. Eye pokes need to be addressed, he said firmly. In one fight, the guy received multiple warnings, even a hard warning from the referee, but made zero changes to his behavior. He kept fighting with his fingers extended, and that's just not acceptable. For Whittaker, the problem isn't just about intent but about the consequences. Even if the poke isn't deliberate, the effect on the opponent can be devastating. Eye pokes are so hard to deal with, he explained. When you get poked in the eye, it doesn't matter whether it's hard or not, your vision blurs or doubles. It completely throws you off your game. An eye poke can change the entire course of a fight. The Australian fighter pointed out that in many cases, repeated warnings do little to deter fighters from continuing the same behavior. He believes referees need to escalate more quickly when they see infractions, instead of allowing multiple warnings before any point deductions. The consequences need to be more dire, Whittaker stated. Right now, fighters can get away with extending their fingers as a range-finding tool, and they'll only face action after several warnings. But by that time, the damage may already be done. Whittaker also acknowledged that not every fighter is guilty of intentional fouls, but he stressed that referees must hold athletes accountable regardless of intent. It's not just one fighter. It happens a lot across the board, he said, but the rules are there to protect us. We need referees to enforce them properly. Despite his strong stance on officiating, Whittaker made sure to recognize the skill and effort of the fighters involved in the bout. He referenced, "I'll say this, congratulations to him. That was a stellar performance, a really good fight. He was doing a lot of the right things in there," Whittaker noted. His comments highlight that while he respects the athletes, his criticism is aimed at the system that governs the sport. The issue of eye pokes has long plagued mixed martial arts, with numerous high-profile fights affected by accidental fouls. Some have even ended prematurely due to fighters being unable to continue after an eye injury. Critics argue that more immediate point deductions or stricter enforcement could discourage fighters from using extended fingers as a striking or range-finding tactic. Whittaker's call for reform echoes a growing sentiment within the MMA community that safety must remain the top priority. As the sport continues to evolve, the role of referees and the consistency of rule enforcement will remain under scrutiny. For Whittaker, the solution is clear. Treat eye pokes with the seriousness they deserve before they irreparably alter the outcome of fights. Move on to another news. The UFC featherweight division is buzzing with new possibilities, and the spotlight is now shifting toward Jon Silva. Fans still remember the brutal spinning elbow knockout delivered by Lerone Murphy just a few weeks ago. That highlight reel finish instantly had the MMA world talking, and many were quick to label Murphy as the next man in line for a featherweight title shot. But in mixed martial arts, the most recent performance often carries the most weight. That's why all eyes are now on UFC Noche, where Jon Silva is preparing to take on Diego Lopes in what could be a pivotal fight for the division. If Silva delivers something spectacular, the conversation around the featherweight title picture could change dramatically. Silva is one of the few fighters who can realistically compete with Lerone Murphy for that coveted shot at champion Alex Volkanovski. His unbeaten run, combined with his clean striking style and well-rounded game, makes him a serious threat. Alongside Movsar Evloev, who has struggled with injuries and bad luck in recent years, Silva remains one of the last undefeated rising stars from the Fighting Nerds team. That alone adds intrigue to this matchup. On the other side of the cage, Diego Lopes represents a dangerous test. While Lopes already had his chance against Volkanovski and came up short, he remains a tough, explosive fighter with finishing ability. However, analysts argue that a Lopes victory wouldn't carry the same weight in the title conversation. A win for Lopes would cement Murphy as the frontrunner, since the UFC is unlikely to book an immediate rematch between Lopes and Volkanovski. Big John McCarthy and Josh Thompson recently weighed in on the matchup, offering insights into how the fight might play out. McCarthy dismissed the idea that Silva needs this win to prove the legitimacy of the Fighting Nerds camp. "You're fighting the best in the world," McCarthy said. "Losing a fight doesn't mean you're a fraud." Still, he acknowledged that this is a crucial opportunity for Silva to establish himself as a top contender. When breaking down the matchup, McCarthy highlighted Silva's striking as a key advantage. "In the stand-up, they both have power," he noted. "But overall, Silva is the cleaner fighter. He's got more tools, and his stand-up is sharper. Lopes throws looping shots, and while he has power, Silva's precision can make the difference. The question, according to McCarthy, is whether Silva can keep the fight standing. Lopes poses a real threat with his grappling and ability to mix things up on the ground. Physically, Silva is strong," McCarthy said. "He's got excellent takedown defense, powerful legs and hips, and he does the fundamentals right. If he can keep this fight on the feet, I think Silva comes out on top." In the end, this matchup carries heavy implications for the division. A dominant win from Jon Silva could catapult him into the title picture and set up a highly anticipated showdown with Alex Volkanovski. A loss, however, would solidify Lerone Murphy as the clear #1 contender. For fans, UFC Noche promises to be a defining moment for the featherweight landscape. Move on to another news. Ilia Topuria has built a reputation as one of the most dangerous men in mixed martial arts. The reigning UFC lightweight champion has torn through his competition with ruthless efficiency, earning a reputation as a relentless finisher and one of the sport's brightest stars. Inside the octagon, he is all aggression, confidence, and precision. But outside of it, as his mother recently revealed in a heartfelt interview, there is another side to the Georgian Spanish fighter, one that may surprise even his most devoted fans. Speaking with a Georgian television channel, Topuria's mother opened up about both of her sons, Ilia and his brother Alexandra. She painted a picture of two talented young men who, while excelling in very different fields, share the same passion, dedication, and creativity. Whenever they visited us in Spain, she recalled, they would bring a huge bag filled with trophies and medals from all the tournaments they competed in back home in Georgia. "My greatest pride is in these two boys and their incredible achievements." Alexandra, she explained, is an exceptionally gifted dancer who also has a natural talent for singing. Ilia, however, channels his creativity in a different way through poetry. It is a detail that stands in stark contrast to the intimidating persona fans see inside the cage. According to his mother, Ilia frequently reads poems, particularly those about the legendary Georgian painter Niko Pirosmani. These works touch him so deeply that he often breaks down in tears. This emotional connection reveals a dimension of Topuria rarely glimpsed by the public. While he is known globally as a fearless fighter, at home he is a thoughtful, sensitive individual, moved by art, history, and culture. Ilia is extraordinary. His mother said, "He can wake up with a brand new idea in the morning and actually make it happen. He has this rare ability to turn dreams into reality. On top of that, he speaks many languages: German, Georgian, English, Spanish, Russian, and Mandarin." Brilliant. The revelation about his passion for poetry also puts into context an earlier moment in his career when Topuria faced light criticism. During an appearance on Joe Rogan's podcast, he mentioned that he loved reading books but couldn't recall a specific title on the spot. That moment led some fans to question his claim. Yet, as his mother's account demonstrates, reading and literature are not only a hobby but a genuine part of his daily life. This side of Topuria adds even more depth to his growing legacy. It reminds fans that behind the knockout highlights, trash talk, and championship belts is a man with cultural roots and emotional vulnerability. His love for poetry, particularly pieces tied to Georgia's national heritage, reinforces his strong sense of identity and connection to his homeland. Topuria is expected to defend his lightweight title in early 2026 against either Paddy Pimblett or Justin Gaethje, while fans eagerly await another thrilling performance in the cage. His mother's words offer a rare glimpse into the soul of a fighter, often seen only as a warrior. Ilia Topuria, it turns out, is not just a champion inside the octagon, but a deeply complex individual outside of it, one whose tears flow just as freely for poetry as his fists do for victory. Move on to another news. Carlos Prates is heading into one of the biggest fights of his career against former UFC welterweight champion Leon Edwards, and the Brazilian contender has made it clear that he isn't overlooking his opponent. At the same time, he has also weighed in on one of the sport's most talked about upcoming matchups, Islam Makhachev versus Jack Della Maddalena at UFC 322. When asked about Edwards, Prates pushed back strongly against the idea that the former champion is past his prime. "I don't believe Leon is finished," he explained. "He's still one of the best. A lion is always a lion. I'm preparing for the best version of Leon Edwards. That's why I train so hard, because I expect him to be sharp, dangerous, and motivated." For Edwards, the stakes couldn't be higher. He enters the fight on a two-fight losing skid, and another defeat could push him further down the rankings, while raising questions about his long-term standing in the division. For Prates, however, this fight represents a golden opportunity. A victory over a former champion would instantly elevate him into title contention, especially after his highlight reel knockout win over Jeff Neal earlier this year. Stylistically, the matchup is intriguing. Both Edwards and Prates are primarily strikers, which on paper suggests an action-packed stand-up battle. But some analysts caution that this dynamic could lead to a tactical fight rather than an all-out brawl, as both men may neutralize each other's striking. Whether fans get a thrilling knockout or a careful chess match remains to be seen. Shifting focus to UFC 322's main event, Prates offered his thoughts on the highly anticipated lightweight clash between champion Islam Makhachev and Australian contender Jack Della Maddalena. While many consider Makhachev the favorite due to his dominance in wrestling and grappling, Prates believes the fight could play out differently than expected. "I think Jack Della is very skilled," Prates said. "He's grown so much as a fighter. Even though he was out for almost 2 years, he's shown he can adapt and improve. He's developed excellent takedown defense, especially in his fight against Belal Muhammad. That's why I believe he has the tools to beat Islam. My prediction is that Jack wins by decision." It's a bold statement, considering Makhachev's reputation as one of the most dominant champions in the sport. Yet Prates emphasized that Della Maddalena's composure, striking ability, and defensive improvements give him a realistic chance to dethrone the champion. The co-main event, featuring Prates versus Edwards, paired with the Makhachev-Della Maddalena showdown, makes UFC 320 to one of the most anticipated cards of the year. For Edwards, it's a fight to preserve his legacy. For Prates, it's the chance to break into the upper echelon of the welterweight division. And for the lightweight belt, the night could mark the rise of a new champion or further cement Islam Makhachev's dominance. As the MMA world waits for fight night, one thing is certain: both Carlos Prates and Jack Della Maddalena have the opportunity to shock the world.